Good morning. Adolf Hitler was surrounded by some truly evil men, and one of those was Adolf Eichmann. Eichmann was hanged in Jerusalem after a public trial on this date, June the 1st, 1962. Hitler was imprisoned in 1924. This is his group. Adolf Eichmann was not in that group. Eichmann was not one of the original Nazi Party members and was not an insider. He joined the party in 1933 and joined the SS, particularly the division having to do with the death camps. And you can see the skull and crossbones on top of the logo. Here's a picture of Eichmann in 1942. Notice the skull and crossbones on his cap. And the initial policy for getting rid of Jews was either to shoot them or work them to death in work camps. But when Germany invaded Russia in 1941, the millions of Jews in Poland and Russia, the Ukraine, etc., had to be dealt with in a new way because of the numbers. So in early 1942, a meeting was held at this building in Wannsee, a suburb of Berlin, where the final solution to the Jewish problem was going to be solved. And this is where we get our phrase, the final solution. The minutes of that meeting survive. And here's a document that lists all the Jews in the various European countries. So members of the SS and the German government planned on killing an entire race of people. And this was a big job because the camps were all over the place. And Eichmann's job was to arrange transport, the trains that so infamously brought people to places like Auschwitz. Well, when World War II ended and the Russians captured Berlin, and here's a picture of the Russian army on top of the Reichstag, many of the high Nazi parties were captured or committed suicide like Hitler. And they were tried at Nuremberg. And here's a picture of the high Nazi leaders, Hermann Göring with his sunglasses, being tried for crimes against humanity. But Eichmann was not in this trial. He had escaped, he had moved around Germany, and in 1950 he had moved to Argentina, where he was spotted by people working for Simon Wiesenthal, pictured here, and other Nazi hunters, and they tipped off Israeli security. So the Israelis sent people to Buenos Aires. They followed Eichmann, figured out his habits, and at one point captured him, drugged him, dressed him like a flight attendant, and put him on a plane to Israel, where he was tried for crimes against humanity and other crimes. And notice how he has judicial process. He has lawyers, he's protected. None of the Jews that went to the gas chambers got any of those rights, did they? Many journalists were at this trial, including Hannah Arendt. And her book, Eichmann in Jerusalem, is quite famous, as is her phrase, the banality of evil, where evil is so often done by nameless, faceless bureaucrats. And I especially appreciate this quote by Hannah Arendt. The ideal subject of totalitarianism is people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction, true and false, no longer exists. And that's certainly true of the Nazis, isn't it? It was based on a big lie, and they had lost their entire moral compass on what is true and what is false. So what is the legacy of Adolf Eichmann today? Well, the death camps are still there, many of them. This is the front entrance to Auschwitz. Another legacy is just the puzzle about good people doing bad things. The German people have a history of poetry, art, culture, and yet they fell so far and fell for the big lie of the Nazis. And then another lesson certainly is we as citizens must always be on the lookout for evil, and we must resist it as we have opportunity. The Germans didn't, and they paid a big price, as did all of Europe and humanity.